Okay. We are live, I believe. And I'm just checking, make sure everything's working right. Yep, we're on. Okay, we've got SARIT Zehari on with us. Are you a colonel or a lieutenant colonel in the IDF?
No, Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant colonel. Okay. My phone thought I was talking to me when I said Sarit. It thought I said Siri. So you're in northern Israel, and we had an interview back at the beginning of the war that was really fascinating. And so I wonder if you could, I just have a few questions specifically pertaining to some of the things that have happened recently on the northern border. And I'd like to get your take on what's going on. First of all, there was a attack 2 days ago on a church in Crete, in the up in the north. That's an ancient Greek Orthodox church, if I remember right. That's only a couple of kilometers from the border. A Christian village, what was a Christian village years ago. 10 people injured. Can you explain to me what happened, and why would they be targeting a church that is, it's said to be a Palestinian Christian church?
It's a good question. I'm not sure when. What happened is that the church is kind of on hill, then there is a valley, and then Lebanon is on top of the second hill. You can see, if you stand there at the church, you can see in Lebanon from where these missiles were launched very, very clearly. The shooting to the church was an anti-tank. This is a weapon that is being used every day, around 10 times against either civilians or army, meaning IDF, could be soldiers, whatever. I can say Hezbollah, have excuses if Lebanese are getting killed by Hezbollah, by IDF attacks in Lebanon. Happened, and it happened this week as well. So Hezbollah retaliate. It is happening because Hezbollah is launching these anti-tank missiles. Hezbollah is hiding these missiles inside the towns. At the same day that the church was hit, there was a launching of anti-tank missiles from a mosque. Here's another example. When the church was hit, it was actually hit by 2 missiles. The first missile, not the building of the church itself, but a small, right next to it, like a few meters next to it, and destroyed. And there was one casualty, a person who was wounded in. And then IDF soldiers came to help, came to rescue, to see how they can treat. And then there was another anti-tank missile that was launched, and 9 IDF soldiers were wounded. And that's how you get to 10.
So it's what we call a double tap attack, where they intentionally wait for the first responders to show up and then they hit them again.
Yes.
This is, I'm sorry?
Extremely accurate missiles.
Oh, right. These anti-tank guided missiles are literally guided as they fly toward their target. And I actually qualified on those when I was in the military, what we called the Dragon missile system. So they are very accurate. They're wire-guided missiles, and they have a range out to 2 miles or more. In this case, it would be more like a tow missile probably. But bottom line is they're very deadly. They're meant to take out tanks. They're not meant to be used against churches. And the Hezbollah fighters up there are using these to great effect all along the northern border. Now, I got a chance to interview our common friend, Shadi Kalul, the other day when I was up there in the north. And he is a Maronite Christian, major in the IDF, I guess, IDF reserves up there. I was surprised to hear just how challenging it is for the people that live in those Christian villages along the northern border. Can you tell me more about what they're facing up there?
Oh, he probably told you much better than the minorities in Israel under attack, under fire. By what you're aiming to.
Well, he was saying that they are outside of the 5 kilometer radius, just barely, where they could have evacuated in Jish, where he is, where they could have evacuated and have been supported by the Israeli government. But since they're not receiving that report, but many of them still have to evacuate, it's quite a bit more costly for them in that village, is what he was talking about.
Doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Jewish, that are exactly at this range of 5, 6, 4.5. IDF decided not to evacuate them. There are many like these from various. All of them actually in Israel. And yes, these people are facing a great challenge because nobody financed the evacuation, and on the other hand, it is really problematic to continue to live these places because you hear the fightings every day. Even in my community, when I'm sick, I'm 9 kilometers from the border. There are people that left, that are not there, and we hear the fightings every day. For example, I've met with the mayor of the regional municipality. He said they had 7 communities that were evacuated by the IDF.
I'm live.
And
Can't help it.
so he said there were, I think, 8 communities that were evacuated by the IDF, and there were 6 more that IDF didn't evacuate, but the municipality encouraged to help people to leave. People didn't want to stay. Sirens every day. You hear the explosion. You feel as if you're in a war. Half of the people in the community are not there, and it's a treat that nobody compensate them. This is true for everybody, not just for the Christian.
So I've been reading that Israel has basically been moving more troops toward the northern border. Is there an anticipation by the civilians up there where you are that this may escalate into actual ground incursion into Lebanon before too long?
I'm not transferring more forces. I think this was done at the beginning of the war. That our presence here since the beginning of the war. We didn't know where this escalation is going. Plan of Hezbollah, of invasion, is the same plan of Hamas. Experience that pretty soon. What is now on is actually a situation that a security zone was created on the Israeli. The residents are gone, and every day we are. So in the church, it's just an example, but there are everyday incidents of anti-tank missiles that are being launched. A farmer was killed, for example, not far from the border, and the solution to how we would go back, how people would go back to normal. Where will go back to live there? How Shadi mentioned him. How will he feel safe under these threats of the anti-tanks and under the assumption that strategic capabilities of Hezbollah are not effectively damaged. You do see more proactive approach of the IDF in the past, like, I don't know, 10 days or something like that. Attacks in Lebanon against the Hezbollah infrastructure. It's not a game changer yet. It's not yet. Situation that I can say, okay, if we have a ceasefire tomorrow, totally not. And that's the biggest problem.
So do you think that the do you think the Israelis who are living up there in the north, where you are supportive of a continued or an escalation, a ground incursion into Lebanon?
I wouldn't say ground incursion. What the IDF is planning, but I would say that Israeli diplomatic solution is not effective. We've been there trying that. In 1701, the United Nations resolution from 2006, not supposed to be used by any terrorist faction, and it to the soundbite north to the Litani River or pushing Hezbollah off the Israeli-Lebanese border. It is if you look just at the casualties of Hezbollah itself, that IDF killed, all these anti-tank squads that IDF attacked, these military operatives of Hezbollah are living, it's their towns, it's their villages. These are areas that are under Hezbollah. I don't see Hezbollah giving up on. So any diplomatic solution will actually be fooling ourselves or Hezbollah fooling all of the rest of the world. It was not a solution. It didn't have a deadline, and there was no enforcement forced on the ground. And again, to enforce that means to conflict. Any international force that we deployed will have a conflict. Anybody's doing that except for the IDF. I don't know whether it's grounded, but I think that a military operation is needed, and we are of the risks here, okay? We are aware of the price, we are aware of the risks, but on the other hand, you know, we were afraid, and if I'm comparing that, we were afraid to go to a full-scale Gaza, and look how it ended up, and I don't want to end up like the South.
Yes, yes. There have been people asking me about whether or not there are tunnels being dug under the border from the north into Israel. My understanding is that the topography would not really make that very easy since it's so mountainous up there. What can you tell people about that?
The fact that it's not easy doesn't mean. A few years ago, IDF allocated 6 border crossing tunnels of. One of them is a tunnel that it's almost around half a mile long, 80 meters, that's 250 feet deep, including electricity, air conditioned, trail, communication lines, fully equipped, operational in this tunnel except for one thing, except for the exit and to search these tunnels, you know, meter by meter, due to intelligence in terrain analysis. So 6 were found. The assumption is that there may be much more underground infrastructure in Lebanon, including strategic tunnels, wide tunnels that could be used over forces from one area to another, even though it's much more difficult. But Hezbollah had all the time in the world. They started warfare project in the 90s. They went to North Korea of Hezbollah, and they learned from them. And afterwards, we've seen, like 15 years ago, an agreement that was signed between a Korean company to assist in tunnels. So there may be different kinds of tunnels, and I already described it. Different kind of tunnels inside Lebanon. I don't know whether there are other than those who were exposed by the IDF, but for sure in South Lebanon.
Interesting. So we keep seeing more rockets being fired every day into Kiryat Shimona, and you have mentioned that this is going to have a military solution because they're just not going to stop. There is a UN peacekeeping force in place in southern Lebanon right now. UNIFIL has been there for decades, and I don't know that there's any more useless UN agency than UNIFIL. They certainly have done nothing at all to keep the peace there. And now word coming out that they actually have to clear where they go in southern Lebanon with Hezbollah, because there are places where they are not allowed to go because Hezbollah doesn't want them to see certain things. They're also using the UNIFIL bases to fire rockets at Israel from right next to those bases. So does that give us a sense of how worthless it would be to try to come to a diplomatic solution, or do you think that there is political pressure that can be put on Lebanon in general and Hezbollah in particular to stop this?
Hezbollah is not, sorry, an external player took over Lebanon. Hezbollah is part of Lebanon. It's part the military operatives, the leadership, the members. Hezbollah is the people, is the Shiites. Okay, Hezbollah invested a lot of efforts to be entrenched in the Shiites of Lebanon. Hezbollah is a member of the Lebanese parliament. So this distinction, with regard to UNIFIL, I think, as I've said, the main problem is that in order to push Hezbollah away from the border, like it Security Council, UN Security Council resolution, conflict is what international force is interested in soldiers getting hurt. Yesterday there was another patrol of UNIFIL, and Hezbollah is not going, by a diplomatic arrangement, just withdraw from South Lebanon. And it will either pretend it had done that while not doing that, and there will be no to monitor it, or they will find reasons, or they will put on the negotiations that demands that Israel cannot accept. This is also an option to something that might.
Yeah. So when what do you think the future looks like in the next several months in northern Israel?
I don't know, because discussing the Israeli government, and we don't know exactly what the decision making looks like in the Israeli government, especially in light of the fact that the United States is not interested in an escalation here. So, and I must say that when I'm saying about military operation as a solution, I wouldn't use the word solution, because military operation is not going completely to destroy, because for that something really extensive is needed, and you see how challenging it is already in Gaza as well, because it's going home to take off the munitions. Conclusions from all I've said is that the next few years it involves different levels of military that will take the cost of lives on both. And as long as we don't deal with the major threat, which is of these people, we are not. It will last forever. Okay.
How does it make you feel that the Biden administration is actually, telling Israel you cannot go into the north? Like, not just like we discourage that, but no, you can't do that, is what it sounds like is being said. Israel, the Biden administration has said a lot of good things in support of Israel during this conflict, but behind the scenes, it seems like they're actually, pulling in the reins and trying to exert control over what Israel can do. And it sounds to me, this is the kind of thing that, to me, it's kind of a binary choice. You either finish this militarily or you lose. There's not a real middle ground. What do you think?
That we don't know the timeline. We don't know when we are going. Okay, we don't know. We don't know how long this is all going to take. I have complaints to my own government. In order to have administration Biden to truly understand how I feel 9 kilometers from the Lebanese border, they should come. They should just take a one-day tour and come up. Empty communities look like. Like, imagine that Houston, okay, maybe a town which is even bigger than Houston, Does this make sense? And nobody knows when the people will be able to come back. Nobody knows. And it's evacuated. They didn't transfer, they were not transferred to another town all over the country. How do you give them municipally? You actually lose the area. This is the heart of Israelis. It's in the heart of the very existence of the state of Israel. We cannot afford to lose pieces of land. This is not going to happen, and we will not compromise on that. And I think they understand that the administration represents for themselves. And on the other hand, they should also go, which I believe they won't be able to South Lebanon and take a look at the presence of Hezbollah in these towns and to understand what does that mean when I am told that there will be an international force that will make all of Hezbollah. What does that mean? What is this force going to knock on the doors of the people in South Lebanon to make sure that there are no roads? How is that going to look like in the daily lives here? We have a ceasefire, which I feel is interested in, and this is what the Biden administration is interested in. I am most afraid of a scenario that there will be a ceasefire with of the strategic capabilities of Hezbollah, and we, like October 7th, we will suffer from rockets and whatever coming and going for years or whatever, and it will end up with this kind of catastrophe. Ask me what Israelis are demanding today after what happened in October 7th. The Israelis up north are not willing to live like that. The people on the south, threat of these rockets since 2005, since Gaza, since we had withdrawn from Gaza, actually. Up north, we are not going to let that happen. Because look how it ended up next to Gaza. We are not going to have this fight that. And I think this is the main message of people that are living here. And they send, by the way, they sent a letter to Biden this week. I don't know if you've seen this. To our problem.
If the United States were to withdraw its support, could Israel go it alone?
I think the United States support is extremely important. And you talked about the military assistance that we got from the United States. This is needed, especially when we speak of actually that is not in one front. Okay, we are Gaza, not only from Lebanon, not only from Yemen. Small attacks, sporadic attacks, but this is also a capability that exists. So I think it's first priority together in this and not separately. We were cut off, Chuck. Okay. Okay.
So let's see if I can get it.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back now. All right. Yeah, I have better, or you have better internet in Israel than I have in West Virginia. Obviously, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, up in, you're living there in northern Israel. Can I ask you about something that's happening in Judea and Samaria? Even though I know that you're in northern Israel, but there is apparently a really massive operation underway today in all across the West Bank, in Jenin, in Nablus, in Ramallah, Hebron, everywhere. Do you know anything about what's going on there or what they're doing?
I'm not an expert to West Bank, but my feeling is that since the IDF understands that if there were tomorrow in West Bank, Hamas would win, and since I hear myself an echo.
Oh, hang on. I'm going to have to change my. It when we reconnected, it changed.
Is it okay? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, I hear myself.
It's still going. I don't know why it won't.
Should I press on that?
Yeah, I can do it. No, it won't let me change that during the call. That's weird.
Yeah.
I've got the. There we go. Okay. All right. Now we got it.
So
That's
I
better.
think that since in Israel we understand that if there were elections tomorrow in West Bank, Hamas, this is the reason why Palestinian Authority didn't in West Bank in the past years. I think now is trying to fight Hamas in West Bank as well and to weaken it as to make sure that once we are done in Gaza, we're not going to see developing the same capabilities there. This is what is actually going on there.
There was an article, I think, in the New York Times or somewhere the other day that was talking about we just need to move everybody out of Gaza and move them um, into the Sinai, which of course sounds a lot like ethnic cleansing. But do you have any idea what an end state would look like, or what the Israeli government is thinking for, as they say, the day after in Gaza?
Whatever there are many reasons why. First reason I can come up with is the Egyptians themselves. They will never. Okay, so that's one thing. We are pushing all the Gazians out of Gaza. I don't know who wrote the article, but that's not what we are wishing for. Eventually, there will be governments in Gaza that is based on the idea authority, but actually it could be an opportunity very different from the Palestinian Authority in West Bank. Palestinian West Bank, it was given the chance to establish a Palestinian state back in the 90s, actually corruptive entity It became an entity that Palestinians anymore, that doesn't serve the Palestinian cause at all. Actually from outside. And not born or in West Bank. And I think since everything that is happening, we have an opportunity to change that and to create a platform of a Palestinian Authority that will have an approach of coexistence, that is not calling for the destruction of the State of Israel. It is going to take time. This is a huge you cannot create in one night or two. It is going to we probably have kind of an interim era that in this time, this interim era, you will see low-scale IDF and Hamas in Gaza. You have governance in different areas of Gaza and eventually we will have to move forward toward creation of a Palestinian Authority, not necessarily that can create some kind of prospect. To bring that to reality is needed by the Arabs, by the Saudis, by the UAE. Now, I am not sure that they are at the same page with me, but I wish they will, and I wish they will to do that. You know, I was in Dubai. Fascinating vision of the Emirates, and I wish we will be able to build something like that in Gaza for the benefit of everybody.
If they could let go of their hate, I think they could do it, but their hate just consumes them, and it doesn't matter how much money we pump in there. If they don't change that, then nothing is going to get better. So can you tell us about Alma Center and how people can...
It's not...
Go ahead.
It's not always about the money.
That's right. That's right. So tell us about the Alma Center, how people can find more of your information you put out and even support you if they like.
Alma Center is based in northern Israel, everything in English. The idea is to create a plan about Israel's security challenges on the northern borders, Hezbollah, Iran, and we publish everywhere in our website, in Twitter, Instagram, my LinkedIn page, whatever. You are all welcome to visit our website, which is Israel-Alma, and you'll have all the information there.
Folks, this is one of the places that I get information that I use in my reporting, because she puts out a daily update about the conflict that is very comprehensive and easy to understand, even for an old infantryman like me. So I certainly appreciate the Alma Center and all the work that you do, Sarit. Thank you so much. So may God bless you. And we pray for peace in Israel, and pray that this will be over soon and everyone can go back home to their lives. So thank you for joining us today. I certainly appreciate it. Folks, you can, again, please follow my reporting on CBN and on my chuckholton.com page. You can go over there and find videos that describe what we're talking about, that show what we've been talking about here today, especially with the rocket attacks in northern Israel and that sort of thing. And you can follow everything over there, chuckholton.com. I am flying back to Panama tomorrow morning, so I probably won't be online tomorrow. But thank you for watching. I'll be down in the Darien Gap before too long, reporting on immigration there, and hopefully back in Israel before, well, I don't know. I mean, I think this is going to go on for some time. And so if Sarit can help me get an embed with a unit over there, maybe I can come over sooner rather than later. I've been having a hard time getting the IDF to let me go right along on a tank with them. So.
Nobody wants you to get killed, Chuck.
Least of all me. I always buy a round trip ticket, but I do know when to duck. So again, thank you very much for that. And Sarit, I'll end the broadcast, but please stay online so that we can let your video finish uploading. It says it's 87%. So thanks for being on, folks. Take care. We'll see